welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the American Revolutionary War, or the American War of Independence, depending on where you are in the world.
AKA, we're having a throwdown.
Having a throwdown here. Well, have I got news for you?
That's what most Americans would see this as, though. A Brit
Yes.
and an American talking about the American Revolution.
Yes.
We've got our dukes up.
Got our dukes up. Queensbury rules.
Cartoon.
Fists
in the air.
Cartoon fists in the
Little
air.
feetsies going,
Feetsies going back and forth. Yeah. Red, white, and blue in one corner. Red, white, and blue in the other.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but this topic was suggested to us by a Instagram follower ages ago.
Ages ago. They wanted to know why.
And we've been really wanting to do this topic,
Why?
but just other things keep getting in the way, so.
And, you know, it's not exactly timely because, I mean, come July 4th.
Yeah, we should have saved it for July 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
We'll put this out on July 4th again.
Yeah.
Maybe a revisit. We'll do a revisited topic of it.
Maybe people will reply to this, and, you know, we can do a follow-up on July 4th.
Yes!
The patriotic follow-up.
The patriotic follow-up, everybody. Your patriotic duty.
But yeah, the basic question or a suggestion on Instagram was just the Revolutionary War, why Americans are obsessed with it, and why the British are not even taught it in school.
Well, you know, after some research in and around the internet, you know, using sites like Reddit, I've formulated answers.
Yeah.
For this.
Well, let's back up, because the reason I think for this topic is because if you're interested at all in, you know, British versus American content, which is what we do on this podcast a lot of the time, then you probably have seen in various corners of the internet British people saying something, just anything.
British people talking about things.
Any comment about America or Americans or American things in general. And an American reply to that comment from a British person, "Oh, that's why we kicked your ass in the war and sent you back home." You will have seen that so many times, I am sure.
Well, no, we just got one on Twitter, actually, when I was talking about 24-hour time. I said, why are Americans so resistant to using the 24-hour clock? Oh, my wife goes crazy or whatever, you know. And someone responded, goes, "Oh, well, we won, so we're the boss of you." And I'm assuming they meant we won the war, the Revolutionary War, so we're the boss of you. And it's like, yeah, no.
The hilarious thing to me is, you know, this suggestion from our follower on Instagram is so on point, because in America, we are taught the Revolutionary War.
It's taught as a heroic struggle for freedom.
We celebrate it on the 4th of July.
Against those
that's what
tyrannical British Empire.
That's what Independence Day and, you know, red, white, and blue and fireworks and all of that is about in this country. It's because of the Revolutionary War that we have that holiday. So it's a big thing over here. And
fireworks and 4th of July and hot dogs and hamburgers and
but I was shocked
red, white, and blue.
When Dominic and I got together, that to find out that
it's like, oh, there was a war, was there?
They don't.
No,
they know about it in Britain, but
they know because thanks to Americans who keep saying, why do they keep telling us that they kicked our asses back to freaking home? What's all this about?
Oh, it's why we dumped all your tea in the harbor and
what
you know.
Tea?
All right, so
PG tips.
So let's get on with this topic. Yeah, I mean, I really could not believe you guys, but in Britain, they really know absolutely nothing about the American Revolution, and nor do they care.
It's not. Yes, it's not. It's not taught in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't taught for me. It can be taught depending on what part of history you're looking at.
Yeah.
But there's a very simple reason why it's not taught. And this is unbiased, It's basically the general feeling from around Europe and the rest of the world. It's not just like me as a British person saying this.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that important. It was a minor skirmish.
Yeah.
And it was, from, as somebody said on Reddit, it's not really taught in the UK or anywhere outside of the US because it's not that an important event. It wasn't like,
to your history.
To our history, to European history.
Yeah.
And arguably the French Revolutionary Wars were more important and had more lasting effects than what was going on over here.
Yeah.
And I mean, so, when it comes down to like people going, we kicked your ass, yeah. It's just like, okay.
I mean, well,
it's just like, and people think like, oh yeah, you're on the side of like King George III. It's like most people in Britain, if they were educated about it, they'd just be like, yeah, you should have. That was a good on you.
Yeah.
Because that it was a tyrannical system.
Mm-hmm.
The political system at the time. King George III was mad. It was, that's it. But there's no need to keep bleating on about it. And people who like. Who bleat on about it, to use that word.
Yeah. It's
kind of like, it's something that happened, and it's like, it's something they've got to be proud of because it's a relatively young country, because they're in like 2,000 years of history.
Yeah.
That's kind of a footnote.
Yeah.
I mean, it was it led to the birth of a country.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of, so that's an important event.
Yeah, for us.
For the world, really, as well.
Yeah.
But and when this kind of stuff was happening all over Europe, kings were being deposed, governments changing, borders changing, countries developing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, there's so much going on. It's like, oh yeah, and that lot over there too.
Yeah.
It's kind of part of a series of wars Britain were fighting with the French. That's what the American War of Independence falls under.
Yeah.
The 7 Years' War, all this kind of stuff. It was basically, it was a conflict that was stoked by the French.
Mm-hmm.
And, to weaken the British Empire.
Yeah.
And it was, it's nothing really to do with that. It was unfair taxation and everything and no representation.
Mm-hmm.
But arguably it was Britain versus France at the end of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because people there's myths of people go, oh yeah, Britain didn't know what it was getting into and it would have lost the war and blah blah blah.
No, because we would not have won that war. In quotation marks,
without French help.
Without France, yeah.
Without France, no.
And this is getting very historical now. I feel like I'm in history class, and
you're in historical class.
We're having like a
very historical, everybody.
About this. But I mean, if you look at America as it was then, it was 13 colonies.
Yeah, it was just 13 colonies,
and they were relatively. Small.
Today, if you put that War of Independence today,
mm-hmm.
I mean, probably not. Britain wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Or wouldn't win.
Yeah. Because it would have been a bigger loss. It would have been a bigger deal.
It would have been a bigger deal.
Because we would have been a full country. But at that time, and, it's...
Britain had its... And the thing is, when you look at it, right, the British, it's like people say, oh, yeah, we kicked Britain's ass and the British Empire collapsed overnight. It's like... In the century after America gained independence, Britain expanded its reach.
Yeah.
The empire grew.
Yeah.
And then, fell. I think it only started really falling in the late 1800s.
Mm.
I think in 1920 it was at its peak.
Right.
It had like everything. So, that was like America was still a thing then. America was quite,
Now you're saying
powerful then,
that Britain is not really taught about it because it didn't matter that much.
It didn't matter that much, and it's not a case of it's not a case of going, oh, it didn't matter that much,
No,
but
I know.
It really did. It's because this, like we had like, I mean,
a lot of other stuff happened before that and after it.
The peasants' revolt. You remember this. The Peasants' Revolt and 1066 and William the Conqueror. We had all that kind of stuff to learn about.
Yeah.
And then we had the Tudors and Henry VIII and killing all his wives and all this kind of stuff.
There's a lot of history in Britain. They don't have time to mention America.
It's like, oh yeah, and then there was like the George III, and he was a bit mad, but that was it, you know. And you know, the French Napoleonic Wars they were far more important.
I would argue
to Britain than
I would argue though that is it not possible that because it was a loss and because it wasn't something that you guys held for a long time, that maybe that's why?
Maybe. It was, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because it's just like, what's the point?
What's
you know
the
what
point?
I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess that goes with what you said. It's not that important. You know what I mean? Like,
because I mean, we don't go, oh yeah, Australia,
because,
you know, oh yeah, you know,
because America is
Canada,
not the only,
you know,
is not the only country, obviously, that sort of picks and chooses what they teach and what they choose to remember when they're passing on information to children about what's gone on, you know, in the past.
What Britain now? Yeah.
No, I said America.
Oh, America. Yeah.
America's not the only country that does that, you know.
No.
It's like,
so it's arguably that, you know, like, I mean, it depends on the lecturer and it depends on the curriculum and everything like that, you know. And over here it's even taught with more nuance than just like, yeah, we were fighting a freedom war.
Yeah.
We were freedom fighters against a tyrannical British Empire and its mad king who wanted to kill us all and you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we're the saviors of the world, you know, we saved the world and all this kind of nonsense, you know. It's like, yeah, but it's like you find a lot of people would have agreed with you on that anyway. And even at the time there was people in Britain who were sympathetic to the cause.
Yeah.
And they were just like, yeah, if they want to go, let them go. And then it was just like, oh, well, but the tax, but the money. You know, that's what it is. We need money to fight the war with the French. You know? Yeah. So, but of course, you know, they've made this kind of like, you know, the rhetoric and all that over here is like, and Mel Gibson's the patriot.
Oh, no, I was just going to say...
Mel freaking Gibson coming in here again with his nonsense.
For any British people listening who are not that familiar with the American Revolution, I tell you, only one film that you need to watch will tell you everything you need to know, and that is Mel Gibson's The Patriot, okay? Basically, Britain was the devil, and Mel Gibson saved us from him.
Mel Gibson saved everyone. Okay? Mel Gibson went up against Lucius Malfoy and he said, shove off, Malfoy!
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Isaacs played this psychotic
just
colonel.
Psychotic.
He was psychotic, and it made it look like the British were committing like all these atrocities and all that. I mean, I think arguably they committed more atrocities after America was founded, you know, in the empire. You know, they burned down Washington after all, in 1812.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, yeah, it's very much like rhetoric of like, yeah, freedom and, you know, and it's like, and of course, if you want to know anything about Scotland, look to Mel Gibson again. And his wonderful documentary, Braveheart.
Mel Gibson just laying down history for us.
Laying down history for everyone. Dropping knowledge everywhere. Dropping truth bombs about history.
My gosh.
You thought you knew history? No. You gotta watch Mel Gibson.
The crazy thing about the American Revolution, and as far as in America goes, is people just look to one particular moment, really, and they fail to remember that after the war was over, it kind of wasn't really over for years and years and years still.
Well, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I mean, it kind of started in like 1774. You know, and then, you know, like with like the 13 colonies getting, I mean, years before that even, I think. But 1775 is when it started.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when the fighting actually started, the militia.
Yeah. When we declared independence.
Declared independence and declared war against Britain. And, you know, George Washington valiantly led this struggle. And,
Yeah.
You know, defeated them and everything like that. You know, and of course, I'm sure in most of in some of the rhetoric that's taught in schools, it's like the French had nothing to do with it, and America did it all with their trucks.
We could have done it. You know, we could have done it on our own. You know,
could have done it on our own. It's like, well, no, you didn't have much in the way of anything.
Here's another very popular internet argument. You could say that it was a bit like Britain saying, oh, well, we could have won World War II without America. But America came in, they helped us out a bit. You know what I mean? It's just sort of...
and people who say that
it's
are
sort
idiots.
It's sort of equivalent,
like,
though, you know?
People who say that, I mean, people who say that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just idiots, because at the end of the day, it was like both sides were exhausted by the time America came in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it was a case of like...
World War II, you're talking
World
about.
War II, yeah. The Axis powers, and, you know, Russia, you know, turned the tide, but, you know, generally speaking, it was a big help.
Well, yes.
And it was like anyone going, oh, well, Britain could have won on its own. We stood alone. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, Britain stood alone in like 1941 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like no one was supporting them. France had fallen. No one was actively showing any support to Britain. It was Britain against the might of Germany and I guess Russia.
Yeah.
I think Russia had signed a pact with Hitler and everything, you know, to divide up Europe. So it was Britain against the rest of Europe, basically.
But it's the same thing that we talk about in the American Revolution. America. It's weird to even call it America because it was not America at the time, wasn't it? Was it?
Well, no. You know, at the end of the day, it's like they were British citizens. Every one of the colonists. You know, they were part of the UK. Well, the UK. They were part of Britain, and so the Parliament were like, oh, we're fighting our own people here. Yeah. You know, what are we doing? Yeah. And I mean, Britain did that anyway with like the Jacobites and everything like that. You know, they fought the Scots and who were for Bonnie Prince Charlie and all that. So, I mean, that was nothing. I mean, they won that one because the Jacobites did not have the backing of the French. Sadly,
right?
You know,
right.
The French were just like,
so the French,
we'll sit this one out.
The French were like, okay, we hate Britain.
We hate
so
Britain,
let's
but
go over and help these rebels.
Help these rebels in America, because you know there's interests for us over there too. But in Scotland, it was like, nah, you know, because Bonnie Prince Charlie was trying to secure French help for that war,
right?
To restore King James to the throne, and you know, I mean, watch out, Lander, you'll figure it out. Sam Heughan dropping some. I mean, no, it's actually pretty good in that kind of historical way.
But yeah, you know, it's funny when you hear Americans talk about it on the internet, because they're not thinking about the fact that, like you just mentioned, they were fighting their own people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
they're not thinking
you literally
about that.
had some cases where families were torn apart because part of the family believed in staying loyal to the crown, and the other family wanted to, you know, move to the colonies and make a new life over there, and they wanted to be separate and all of this. So once they were over there and the war began and more troops started coming over from Britain, there were situations where they were literally fighting their own family members.
They're fighting their own family members, and I mean, Washington Spies kind of shows what's going on with that kind of thing, because you know, people think it was like the United States back then was all 50 states and we were fighting against Britain.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some people who actually believe that Texas was involved in this, you know.
Well,
and, you know, or you know, California or whatever, you know, and it's just like, no, it was just those 13 colonies up on the northeast there, you know.
The funny thing is, a lot of Americans today quite possibly never even had any ancestors who were involved in that whatsoever.
The founding fathers.
Their ancestors, in fact, might have been, if they have British ancestors, their ancestors very possibly could have been people who were still over there, who came over here to fight, and then who went back, and then only came to America generations later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's like... it's a crazy country, America.
Crazy.
It's got a crazy history, and
these Americans are crazy.
And the thing that people from other countries who have a much longer history as a country have to remember about America is that our history is very short as America, as Americans. And so it's only obvious that, it only makes sense that we want to have some sort of history. You know what I mean? We want to have some sort of identity. And so we cling to the American Revolution as,
getting philosophical now in decades, centuries to come, that it will die out.
Well,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of like...
I think so, yeah.
I think it'll die out and you'll become more and more like Britain. Where it's just plodding on. It was just like, I don't know. I don't remember that war. It was millions of years ago. I don't know. And yeah, you'll be talking like that. You'll be talking like you're from Essex. Because the Essex accent gets us all. You'll be coming in and you'll be like, all right, fella, I don't know. Have a word. Because I'm not,
let's be real. I think there's already a lot of people. I think, didn't we talk about it on the 4th of July last year? Didn't we talk about the number of people who don't even know why we celebrate the 4th of July in this country?
Yes.
So it's already happening.
Well, I told you about that. People on the internet asking me if we celebrate 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's how I was educated about it, actually, because I was like, what do you mean 4th of July? What's the 4th of July?
Yeah, why would I celebrate?
Why would I celebrate that? Is that a holiday I should be... Oh, it's like, well, no, I guess we wouldn't, because, it was kind of like a war, and, it's like, there's nothing to do with us, really, now,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, oh, yeah, we lost.
That's a good question. Can you remember when you learned about the American Revolution?
It was probably on the internet.
Yeah.
It wasn't in school.
Yeah.
Because all I remember from school was the Spanish Armada, Peasants' Revolt, 1066, Henry VIII killing all his wives. Well, killing some of his wives, divorced, beheaded, whatever, How does it go? Queen Victoria just reigning for hundreds of years. And, that's pretty much it. It was like the Industrial Revolution, But nothing about America winning any war or being freedom and all that, it just wasn't taught. And, people say, well, yeah, truth hurts, truth hurts. But it's like, it was part of it. It's when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, of everything that was going on back then, it's like, it looks like it was a minor skirmish to the Empire, It looks like it was like just another one of those wars that were fighting against the French. The French had turned up, hate France.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of
there were a lot of British people, too, at the time, I think, that were like, it's so far over there. Ugh,
we don't care. We don't
care.
Leave it alone.
Why do we want to have them? They're all the way over there. It takes forever to get there. Like, let's just let them do their thing and
the
be
thing
done
is,
with
and
it.
it wasn't like France and Britain were fighting each other for control of each other's land. It was just, they were just fighting each other because they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
It's like, we need a war. Should we have a war? Yeah, let's have a war. Oh, go on then.
You know what? It just reminded me, like, why do I sometimes see... Is it to do with World War II? I don't know. People saying, oh, well, we can bond over this. Americans, I think, usually saying this to British people. Well, we can at least bond over we both hate the French. Why do we hate the French in America? What have the French ever done to America? They gave us the Statue of Liberty, for God's sake.
Oh, you've heard that, probably
haven't you
in the
seen
last
that?
20 years.
Why?
Because in the 2003 invasion of Iraq...
Oh, yes.
The French notoriously said, no, we're not helping. We're not committing any resources to it. And Britain and Tony Blair was like, yeah, Told you those French were no good.
France. Yeah.
And so everybody was like, oh, how dare they? Oh, we hate France. Da, da, da. We're going to rename all the French fries to Freedom Fries. Well, they weren't bloody French in the first place. They were Belgian. They were just French cut. Just call them fries. Or better still, call them chips.
Call them papas fritas.
Oh, yeah. Better still, call them papas fritas because guess what? Spanish language is coming for you. And it don't take no prisoners, pobrecito.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, no, I guess maybe that's why. I mean, there's always been the idea that the French hate Americans, you know. So I guess
those Americans coming over here.
Yeah. Oh, if we go to France, they're rude to us and things like that. So maybe that's why. And then I'm sure you're right that probably didn't help matters at all.
Yeah, and Britain France don't like Britain because because Britain insists on eating prawn cocktail crisps even though we have told you not to.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes, so that's why, you know.
Yeah. So that basically, I mean, you've got pages and pages of notes. I have no idea whether we covered it.
We covered it all. I mean, it was all kind of like comments on Reddit and people going, why isn't it taught outside of the US? And, you know, why isn't it taught in the UK?
Because unfortunately, they don't care.
They don't care. I mean, you know, it's like one of those things that, like, you know, you say that to a British person who hasn't been taught it, who's never heard about it before. They're just going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's nothing really, you know, to get wound up about.
Yeah.
And if you do see a British person getting wound up, they're probably winding you up.
You know, it's like, I wonder, okay, I mean, think about how many countries have been owned by...
Back in 1775, Britain was ruled by everyone that looked like Piers Morgan. Everyone looked like Piers Morgan in a wig.
No, but let's think about this. I mean, I don't know if we have any Mexican listeners or Mexican American listeners or Spanish listeners for that matter. Haven't looked at our analytics in a while, but
I haven't looked at our analytics in a while.
But it would be the same as like, is Spain taught about the Mexican Revolution?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And maybe
it is.
Not,
maybe they're like, oh, wait a minute. You know, we might want Mexico back because, you know.
Because again, they have a really long history of their own, you know.
When you think of the Spanish language all over the South America and Central America, you know, they had a far more lasting influence than Britain did, you know. Really. I mean, the language and stuff, you know, because the US speak English, but it's not the national kind of language, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Canada, I suppose they speak French and English, so, you know, in some parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask a Spanish person.
Yeah. Are
you taught about the Mexican Revolution?
And better yet, do you bring that up when you're talking to Spanish people on the internet? Is that an argument?
Are you a Mexican that has an argument with Spanish people on the internet saying, we kicked your ass back home? Sent you back home.
We threw all your, in the harbor, you know? Something. We threw all your
tapas in the harbor.
We threw all your tapas in the harbor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's what they did. They threw all your tapas in the Gulf. And it's gone now.
Anyway, I think we just talked a lot of crap in that podcast.
We did. We offended everyone in that podcast.
I hope you got something out of it anyway. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we appreciate your support.
We appreciate your support. And if you want to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com, Tea and a Buddy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.